Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be taking a Game Boy Pocket apart and I'm going to try to fix it. It's currently not working. I'm going to take it apart, see if I can figure out sort of why it's not working. If you'll look, you'll see quite a bit of corrosion on all the different screws as well as around the batteries. This is likely due to some sort of water damage in the past or something like that. We'll take it apart and we'll see what we can see. But yeah, I got this Game Boy Pocket off of eBay for about $15. I'll go ahead and put a image up on the screen to sort of show you what that was, and then I'll go from there. But this is the before, and hopefully at the end of this we'll have a nice, clean, and working Game Boy Pocket. Some things to know about this one: it's got an old sticker on it that didn't come off. It's missing the battery cover, and it's just in general rough shape. I've actually got a new case for it on the way, as well as a new screen. So we're going to clean this one up and have it as a backup. But likely I'm going to be recasing this whole entire Game Boy Pocket. Some things that I need in order to do this: I keep a pencil around, I keep Q-tips, some nice 91% rubbing alcohol to clean things, and I've got my screwdrivers. A shout out to Retro Future, who I first saw doing these videos. I really liked them, so I figured I'd make some of my own. Some things to note: you see a lot of corrosion here in the extension ports as well, which also speak to maybe some corrosion and some water damage throughout, along with on the contrast dial itself as well. So we're going to see whether we can get it working. I don't have high hopes, but it'd be nice if we could get it working. Writing upside down isn't always the easiest. I put in a little outer shelving there so I could then take these once I get them out and plunk them down right there. That's the bit of painter's tape I just sort of thought of last time we were taking one of these apart. I don't know if I've really ever seen it anywhere else, but it allows me to keep the screws in one spot without losing them. Alright. See a lot of corrosion here on these contacts, a lot of corrosion on this extension port, and maybe some corrosion there. Go ahead and take off these. Phillips head screws. There are 3 inner screws. Looks so bad. A little bit of nastiness and crud here, but that's not bad at all. Just a lot of corrosion in this area. So what I'm first going to do is I'm first going to take all those apart. So we're gonna get all the buttons off. So I can actually see some old gross dead bugs in here. Okay, now I've got the screen out. Got the case, I'll go ahead and put the case aside. First things first, we're going to try to get rid of some of this corrosion all around these areas. So the way that I'm going to first attack this is I'm not going to start with rubbing alcohol like a lot of people do. I'm actually going to start with a little bit of baking soda. So we'll see how this works. Not really seeing a lot of difference on these ones, so I'll go ahead and again, this is water, so you got to make for sure to clean it all completely off the board before you do anything else on it. Right, so now we're going to move to some alcohol to see whether we can maybe get some of this sort of cleaned out. The point here is sort of just clean out all the contacts, so we run from one side all the way to another, all the way to one side, back to another, all the way to one side, back to another, just until it's nice and cleaned out on the inside. It feels much like a much more smooth operation. Then we use some more alcohol to flush the system. As you're moving these parts around, you can really tell the difference between a clean one and a dirty one just as you move it. It really frees itself up quite a bit more. There's not a lot I can do about sort of ultrasonic cleaning this board, so I'm not necessarily as worried about that as I am with just trying to get all the parts sort of cleaned up and working again. Looking at the different solder points, doesn't look like they're that weak or anything like that. I'm not super worried. Sort of again cleaning off the board itself. I'll have to get out some more Q-tip. I'm actually running a little low. Okay, so now that I've got that moving freely, I'm going to go ahead and drop in some rubbing alcohol from the outside or backside just to sort of flush it a bit. Right, let it drip down to the paper below. Alright, now we're going to go ahead and clean up all of these different little solder points down here. Okay, one last spot to clean right now is the power button. So again, dropping in quite a bit of rubbing alcohol, moving it back and forth. All right, while this totally dries, we'll go ahead and clean off the case. Front case is already sort of stripped completely. Almost there. Here I've got to take off this back piece and this piece right here. So starting with here. So as you see, the case is quite grimy and gross. So we are Now we've sort of removed everything from the case, we'll go ahead and clean the case. And with that, I'm just gonna go and clean it in the sink. Just understand I'm using water and dish soap, sort of scrub it and get it good and nice and scrubbed. And then I'll come back here and whatever is left, I'll clean off with some rubbing alcohol and try to get it the rest of the way cleaned up. So see you in a minute. Almost forgot to remove the little tab here. Now that we have got this cleaned out, we'll also clean out these as well. Nice and dirty. Alright, so a trip to the sink, went ahead and cleaned up the pieces. I'll go ahead and dry them off, and then I'm gonna try to take the last little bits of rust spots out with maybe some more Q-tips. Alright, now that I've got the big parts cleaned off, go ahead and do the fine detail cleaning. You can see a whole bunch of crud sort of locked into these holes here, so we're gonna go ahead and see if we can scrub them out. They were fairly successful at that. I'll go ahead and do a quick clean off of the contacts. They're going to go back into the Game Boy itself. Okay. All right. So let's see if I can get some of this back cleaned off with all this rust that's on it. It's not perfect, but considering the fact that I'm planning on rehousing this Game Boy Pocket in a new case, I'm gonna throw it all back together and see whether it works. So first things first. I'm gonna take one of my wire brushes and I'm gonna wire brush them and see whether I can clean up some of these screws. Much nicer looking. It's got rust along the sides and the top. Got this brush and two other brushes. This one is sort of the hardest brush. There's a brass brush that goes along with it, and then there is just a plastic bristle that I use to actually clean all the different parts. And I got these all from Harbor Freight, and I like them quite a bit because they're pretty cheap, and if you lose them, you don't feel too bad. I'm actually going to go ahead and try to get some of more of this rust off of these areas with this brush as well. Just try to take a little bit off of this area right here to ensure that when I put it back together, it maybe cleans up a little bit nicer. I might try to hit that area a little bit too. Now I've got the edges of the board all somewhat cleaned off a little bit more. I'm gonna go ahead and put her back together and see whether she runs. If not, we'll do more testing. Oh, look at that. Looks like it's good to go. This one was likely just a issue with the power switch not being able to toggle on and off. Alright, so now we have a nice clean Game Boy, and contrast a bit hard to see here, but we'll down 1999 game, Wings of Fury. So as you can see, the screen is still super scratched, and I'll fix that. Alright. So all it took was a good cleaning, and this broken Game Boy is now a fixed Game Boy. Thanks for watching. If you like what you see, go ahead, comment, like, subscribe.